Okay, it's 9:01. I think we're gonna go ahead and get it started. Hi everyone, I'm Joyce, founder and CEO of Unilight Consulting. We're delighted to providing the most customized and supported application consulting services to top business schools for international students. And as part of our school interview series, we're delighted to have Morgan Cole with us today. And Morgan is a second-year MBA student at Johnson. I'll let her introduce herself in a little bit. And Morgan, to give you a little context, students online today are mostly from Asia, and they're either evaluating their offers or are in the application process for round 2. And we're recording this session for students who can't make it live. So Morgan, I will give the mic to you, and I have a short list of questions collected from students ahead of time. So first of all, how about you give us a short introduction of yourself to understand your background a little bit?
Sure, yeah, thanks. Thanks for the opportunity. So yeah, my name is Morgan. I am currently studying at Johnson at Cornell. And basically, my background is a little different, and that's why I like to do stuff like this. So whenever I got my undergraduate degree, I actually got it in fine art. So my prior career has been mostly in cast metal sculpture. Working in a metal and
non-traditional background for business.
Yeah. So that's why I like to do these things, because for me, I didn't think that I would get into Cornell. I had never imagined that I would be here in this capacity. And so I just want to serve as an example and as a resource for those who might feel that way as well.
Thank you so much for your time. So, I mean, that's definitely a non-traditional background. Then maybe we'll start by, why did you choose Cornell Johnson, and what did you do while you were at school, internship, and then maybe after graduation?
Yeah, I'll take you through like a little bit of my prior history. And so I guess it'll start back with undergrad, but basically I went to get a degree in fine art. I loved what I was doing. But then when I graduated, I knew that one day I wanted higher education, but I wasn't sure in what. I didn't want to go and get a master's in fine art. I just didn't think it was going to be, I guess, effective for me specifically. It wasn't what I was wanting. So I jumped out of school, and then I went straight into the workforce to try and kind of figure out what I wanted over the next few years. I had a lot of really great experiences. I worked with a metal fabricator in Chicago, and then the bulk of my career was spent at a fine art foundry in Washington State. Mm-hmm. And while I was there, I started in like a group of, 50 men. I was the only woman, and just in the metal shop, just like toiling away. But I started to really immerse myself in the practice and like the market. And I noticed that our foundry wasn't meeting the needs of the market. We didn't have some of the capabilities that like the art market was demanding at the time. And so I brought this to my bosses, and I was able to create 2 new departments to meet that need. And I took my seat at the head of one. And I realized that what I really liked doing the most was strategizing about making meaningful change within kind of the organization. And so at a certain point, I started to plateau, and I was really seeking more opportunities like that. And so that's when I started to think like maybe business school is the right choice for me. I will say I only applied to 2 schools. I knew exactly what I wanted, and I didn't really, if I didn't get in, I was going to just try again the next year. Mm-hmm. So I chose to apply to Carnegie Mellon's Tepper program, mm-hmm. and Cornell Johnson. And the reason that I chose them, and specifically now I can speak to Johnson, but the reason that I chose them was because of the smaller class sizes. Mm-hmm. Business school to me is a really important opportunity to make a network. And I wanted to go for quality over quantity, if that makes sense. Yeah. Within the first month of being at Johnson, I already knew all my classmates. And I think that having a smaller class size made it a lot easier to make very strong bonds with those people. Mm-hmm. And then also the fact that we're in Ithaca, which is kind of a rural area in the middle of nowhere, it has really helped us to, like, it's a bubble for us. And so we're able to really connect on a deeper level. And then another thing, my career before this was kind of a toxic environment. Working in a metal shop with a bunch of guys, it was
very difficult.
It was difficult. And another part of me, the reason that wanted to go to business school was because I didn't believe that in order to get ahead in business, you needed to put down the person next to you to elevate yourself. I feel that, like, as a whole, we elevate each other.
Yeah.
And so the first time that I visited Cornell's Johnson's website, it said that they value collaboration, that we're not cutthroat, and that, like, we all win when we win together. And that was exactly what I was thinking before I even saw it. So yeah, I think that it's really held up to that test of time. I don't know how admissions does it, but I'm with the most amazing group of intelligent and emotionally intelligent people here, and I feel very lucky about it.
Wow, that's amazing. It's great to hear. We always know that Johnson has a really good collaborative environment for students. So interestingly, the two schools that you applied, I think they both have a good reputation in technology. Is that somewhere that you were considering as well?
Yeah, not really. And yeah, absolutely right with Tepper. I think Cornell is more like consulting and investment banking focused. Like those are the two biggest programs, I guess I would say here. I didn't really know what I wanted after school. I just knew that I wanted a small class size. It was so strange to only choose two, but kind of just had it in my mind from the start. I'm gonna get this or none at all.
Oh, wow. That's really brave. Great. Yeah. I'm sure probably students will have more questions afterwards about that. And then, so we learned that there are many leadership programs at Johnson, and our students were wondering which ones that you would recommend, or was there one that you chose personally?
Yeah, so by leadership programs, do you mean the immersions, or do you mean like clubs that we have?
I think both.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I can talk to that. So the immersion that I chose was corporate finance. And mostly it was a strategic thing. So you get to choose your immersion kind of like a month before you start like interviewing for internships. So and this is actually how I got into the school, I would say. I took a very, very critical look at myself and my resume and what was missing from it. Yeah. And like I've told you, it's very art heavy. I worked with artists. I was an artist. There was a distinct lack of numbers on my resume and like hard quantitative skill. So I really wanted to, I wanted to learn about corporate finance. I believe that if I'm going to be strategizing, I should understand the financial implications of the strategies I'm going to be presenting. Yeah. But also it was very strategic to kind of put corporate finance at the top of my resume, so that it signaled to those who were interviewing me that I was self-aware enough to know where my weaknesses are, that I'm brave enough to go towards something like that. Yeah. And yeah, that I'm a good candidate for those reasons. So yeah, I took the corporate finance immersion and it was really, really awesome. We learned how to basically like create financial models. We got really, really good with Excel. And then we talked about like understanding what each line of all the financials meant. Yeah. So I feel like it gave me such a better understanding of finance in general. And yeah, it was fantastic. There are other ones that people liked, but I think that the one that consistently had the best reception was corporate finance. And then as far as clubs, so everybody here joins professional clubs. They are the ones that help you to recruit and get ready for the internship and for full-time. Yeah. So I'm a member of the consulting club because that's what I'm going into. I also joined the Marketing Association and the Executive Management Club. I started to kind of branch out a little bit in the beginning to figure out what I wanted. And then as soon as full-time consulting picked up, that's when I kind of dropped everything else. I'm also on the board for Big Red Consulting. So that's actually a student-run consulting firm on the campus. And we,
is it
this year specifically,
consulting?
Yeah, so this year specifically, because of COVID, we wanted to keep it local. So we have a bunch of, upstate New York businesses that we are currently doing consulting projects for. And basically they pay like a nominal fee, and then we put like 5 first years on the task of figuring out, whatever issue that they have. And then at the end, they present to the client. And yeah, I did that last year. I loved it. I thought it was really valuable, especially because I didn't have any client-facing consulting experience. So it was kind of one more thing to get me ready before going into the internship.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I liked it so much I got a board seat.
Oh, wow. That's
great. There's tons of other clubs, like fun ones too, but I'm not sure if you want to talk about those.
Well, if they have questions, I'm sure they will ask you at the end. I will leave a few minutes for Q&A. A lot of students are interested in getting into consulting, and I know you got an internship at EY last summer, or yeah, this year, last summer. How did you like that? And then besides the club, the consulting, and what other resources at Johnson that will support students who wants to transfer to consulting?
Yeah. I loved EY so much. I had the best time. So my project, whenever I went there, I was put on an internal project. And actually it was way better than I could have expected.
Yeah.
So when I got to my team, they were already 3 years in their process for this specific project. I was put on, basically what the project was in the cell and gene therapy landscape, there is kind of no data software platform that connects all the stakeholders along that supply chain. So in cell and gene therapy, you have a biopharma manufacturer that creates a therapy based off of one person's genome. So there's a lot of moving parts, and they all have to work together to be aligned so that you can save the therapy and the patient. So I was working in that space, and I had the best boss I've ever had in my life, which was fantastic. And now we're friends. But
what did the boss do?
I will tell you what made him so amazing. There were 2 times that I kind of like that I noticed it, or I don't know, whatever. So the first is I was coming up with like an analysis for him about like, I said, do you want me to like do some research on competitors in this space? And he looked at me and he was like, Morgan, this project is about saving lives. And if a competitor entering the space like helps us to save more lives, he was like, we need to let it happen. And so like he cares so much about the work that he's doing, and he's so passionate. And then another time, and I know that this is always used as like an anecdote, but one time we were presenting a deck that we had all put together, like a PowerPoint deck, and to the partner on our team, who was like the global lead of life sciences. And he comes to one of the slides, and when my boss is presenting it, he says, wow, this slide is amazing. And I knew that like my boss had been the one that made it, and he diverted all of the praise to the team, and he said, yeah, my team did such a great job on this. And it's that kind of personality that, shoulders all the burden of criticism, but gives all the praise to everybody below him. And yeah, he worked harder than anyone I know, and I'm just lucky to have met that person.
Wow, that sounds like an amazing experience. And
it really was.
Getting into biotech industry with those topics and the terms is not easy.
Yeah, exactly. That was part of the I guess the test for me. I told them I wanted to go on a project, any project in any space, just to see if consulting was right for me. And yeah, the cell and gene therapy landscape, like all the regulations, all the worldwide information, even just understanding how it worked scientifically, I had to figure that out really quickly. On my first day where they told me what project I was on, my boss emailed me 3 PDFs that were all 400 pages long of like really dense medical jargon. And he was like, okay, you have a couple days, read it, and then we'll get you to work. And I was like, okay.
Well, a couple of days is not bad. Sometimes I only get one night.
Yeah, thankfully I was very lucky. But anyways, I think that was honestly my favorite part too, was just learning about all of that. And that's kind of how I view my career after school, is an extension of my MBA. I don't ever want to stop learning.
Yeah.
And I think that consulting is really the best option for that kind of thing.
Very well said. I mean, consulting, yeah, it is like an extension of business school, and you don't get bored because you're always on new projects.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. We got a question from the audience. So Xiaoman is asking, hi, Morgan. Since you mentioned that you enjoy studying corporate finance as an art undergrad major, and wondering, have you had a hard time when taking courses such as accounting and statistics? And I think she is also, I think she is an undergrad film major and concerned about having difficulties in those courses in business school.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that. That was something that I was really worried about too. So I would say, first off, nobody fails at Johnson. They might scare you in the beginning and say, you need to get this GPA or you can't pass, but they make it really, really hard to fail. Like there's a huge curve for core classes. And so, yes, accounting was really, really difficult for me, as was my core finance class. I didn't do great in them, but I also didn't fail. And I believe that I learned a lot. And that was the most important thing for me. And so in business school, basically, we have grade non-disclosure. So a company is not allowed to ask you what grades you get. And it's just a whole business school-wide thing that nobody discloses any grades or GPAs. So that's like a really, really great safety net so that you can focus more on recruiting. Really, these classes are meant to teach you something. So don't worry about what's going on the paper. Just worry about like retaining it here for when you go to your internship. But I will say there are also a few supplementary things that I leveraged before coming so that I could kind of, not fail as hard. And so I did the MBA math program before coming to school. I also did this to kind of put it on in my optional essay to get into school. I did the MBA math, and I took one calculus course at like a community college in my town, just so I could kind of show the school. Sorry, what'd you say?
Was that right before business school?
Yeah. Yeah, and then actually I took the GMAT after my calculus class too, and my score jumped significantly, which was awesome. But yeah, I would say doing those two things were really, really helpful for me. And then also Johnson has something called Math Camp. So that's like 3 days before school starts. And it's just like 3 days of intensive kind of classes in finance, accounting, and economics. And it was extremely helpful. I highly recommend it. Even if you think that you are already an expert in that field, that was when a lot of our classmates were starting to meet and get to know each other. So I'm glad I went to learn, obviously, but that's where I also made some of my deepest friendships, like right from the start. So I highly recommend doing something like that as well.
Yeah, I would say for Xiaoman, a lot of schools do have those called MBA before MBA, that kind of program that you get from few days to 2 weeks of intense learning and to catch up with some of the kind of basic business knowledge. Okay, and she said, sounds great. Thank you, Morgan. And Xingyue also posed a question, said, hi, Morgan. Thank you for sharing your experience at Johnson. I'm interested in learning more about Big Red Micro Enterprise. Can you share some examples of what kind of projects there were and what you did, both working on the projects and serving on the club board?
Yeah, good question. So actually, I'm on the board of Big Red Consulting. I believe Big Red Micro Enterprise is a different, like, I guess, competency. So we have a few of these types of like student-run firms. There's like Big Red Tech Ventures, Big Red Micro Enterprise, and then, yeah, I can't remember what the other one is. And they all do similar things working for clients in like a smaller capacity. But so, yeah, I can speak to BRC, but basically I can talk about my experience as a consultant first. So last year I was put on a project for a flooring company in the Ithaca area. We actually sometimes have like some pretty big client names, and I'm not sure if I'm allowed to say it, but the work that we do has been pretty substantial. I guess I will say the airport in the past here has been one of our clients, and our consultants actually were able to give them a recommendation to add another destination to like their destination lists. And so they went through an entire reconstruction of the airport. They added flights in from, and we're actually in the process of adding another flight to New York City, which is really cool. But so, yeah, last year I was working on one for a flooring company. They basically had very, very high like revenue growth. Mm-hmm. And so they were expanding into new states, and the boss came to me and said that he was not enjoying his work anymore because he felt stretched too thin. And so basically with all this like outward growth that they had never once looked internally to understand how to manage that growth within the organization. So my team came up with kind of a rule book and strategies in order to do so. So we took a look at their organizational chart. We added a new position, and we gave them performance review markers, succession planning, and stuff like that, so that, you know, as they continue to grow, they would have people who could move up through the organization, take on more responsibility, and so it wouldn't all fall on the boss. So yeah, it was really a really amazing project. Just getting to work and help somebody locally was really, really impactful for me. Our client was so grateful at the end. That was the best part. Yeah. And yeah, I really love that. And so now we've got a lot of different projects around the upstate New York area. I think we do like 1/3 of them are nonprofits, and we do those ones for free. And, you know, the rest are just people trying to figure out a problem. And it's a really great way to get to know your classmates and to, I guess, get to know yourself a little better. And so, yeah, now I'm on the board. I'm the VP of operations. So I'm the one putting together every Zoom meeting and recording everything and sending out emails. But it's been really valuable. And for me, like one of the biggest things is that I guess this is where like a lot of the students who don't have experience in this field go to. And so as a board member, I serve as like a mentor for all those who want it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, that's how I like to give back, because I still can't believe where I am right now. And I can't believe that I'm going to EY. I actually signed yesterday.
Oh, congratulations.
Yeah, thanks. So yeah, for me, any opportunity I can have to pay it forward, to be a mentor, to teach what I know, I jump on it, because I wouldn't be where I am right now without the help of those that came before me.
That's the spirit of Johnson. Fantastic.
It is. It really is.
Well, any advice, since you're on the board for a big consulting club, and then a lot of students are going, like trying to get into consulting, any advice for them, you know, starting from now when they apply?
Totally.
You know, they get into school.
Yeah. Okay. So this is how I believe that I did it. And also I don't know if it's the question's on anybody's mind, but I didn't kind of use anybody to like look at my essays or anything, which in hindsight was probably a bad idea, but I think I got lucky. So what I did first, and this is what I was saying when I was looking at my resume for internship opportunities, I just took a really, really hard look at my resume and myself. And I said, okay, like strategically, what are the admissions people like looking at? What are they looking for? And how can I answer the question before they've already asked it? Mm-hmm. So I took the calculus course. My GMAT score was not so high that I would put it on my resume, if you catch my drift. So I took the calculus course. I did the MBA math, and I wrote that in the optional essay to make sure that they knew that I was, I don't know, self-aware enough to realize what I needed to work on, and that I was tenacious enough to go get it. Mm-hmm. And then, yeah, I guess I was pretty vulnerable in my essay, the back of my resume essay, which is basically like, we have what we know who you are on paper, tell us what we don't know. And yeah, I wrote like a story about my family and I don't know, the circumstances of my birth, but that's neither here nor there. But I would say get vulnerable, show who you are. Mm-hmm. And then let's see what else. I suppose, I don't know, I guess that was it. The biggest thing though is making sure that your story connects with itself. So if you took some time off work, or if you made like a really weird career switch, like that's awesome and cool, and they love that, they don't care, but they also need to know about that. So you should use the optional essay to speak to anything that they might question in your resume. That way they have in your words what was going on, so they don't have to like think and imagine what that might have been. And then, yeah, I would just say, make sure it connects. Why do you want to go to business school? Like, what's the reason? Make sure that they can see that on there. And then I would say bringing that forward into consulting, especially when you start interviewing for consulting, kind of picking a theme basically, and understanding why it is you want to do consulting. And so for me, that was really difficult because my art background is just, it's so diverse, it's so varied, and people are always like, they're shocked that I'm at business school and then consulting. It's like, what are you doing? But basically my whole reason for that is because, you know, I'm really interested in strategy. I love to strategize and I love to problem solve. And I love to work on teams, and that's what consulting is. So just make sure you know what it is you want, and be very, very clear in how it connects and how you can bring kind of a unique perspective to the table. And then while you're interviewing, I guess for Johnson, I'll say, make sure that when you answer questions, you are open and honest. Make sure that you're you, because really what they're looking for is, would I want to spend a winter with this person up here? So they call it the airport test. But basically, if I was stranded at an airport with you for 5 hours, would I go crazy, or would we have fun? Would it be okay? So make sure that, like, at least a part of your answer is that you also want to kind of be with us in Ithaca. You know, I don't know what it's going to look like for the next couple of years, but I do know that a lot of international students still have flown here and they live here now with us. So whatever you decide to do, just make sure that the Johnson culture is really one that you know that you want.
That's great that you mentioned the Johnson culture for students who are, so far away and they don't have the luxury of visiting the campus this year. Any other resources besides, attending those kind of webinars to learn about the Johnson culture?
Yeah, that's a good question. So I know that there's been a lot of videos put out that have kind of some of our social events. We actually just did a virtual Diwali. So every year Diwali is like a really huge thing for us. They set up the atrium, which is the main hall, with just like lights and lanterns and like a giant stage, and everybody dances, like even our deans. So funny. But this year they put one on YouTube, so I can see if I can find it for you. But it's so much of what the school is like. Yeah. Everybody, just random people coming together to dance and have fun and be silly. Yeah, we so many fun things, which is really sad because this year obviously things are very different, but yeah, that's okay. I have so much gratitude for the school for the way that they've been handling the pandemic. Like, they are keeping me safe. They're testing us every single week, and my anxiety over it is kind of gone away, which yeah, they're just doing an amazing job. But yeah, Ithaca is really, really beautiful. There's so much to do here, so much hiking. And right now it's so beautiful because all the leaves are like changing and falling. So it's like all leaves everywhere. It's really nice. There's a ton of waterfalls. There's a ski resort that's kind of maybe like 40 minutes away. Yeah. And so there's always something to do, which is really nice because, when you're in the middle of nowhere, you can get bored.
Yeah, definitely. And school is not going to keep you busy enough.
No, yeah, that's true. No time to get bored.
Cool. That's like really good advice, and thank you so much for sharing all those unique experiences. So our student get back to you said, thank you, Morgan, for the clarification and sharing your experience. Sounds like a wonderful opportunity to help local community and gaining real world experience. Clapping for you. And Xiaoman also said, I heard Ithaca is quite beautiful. I've got friends who held their wedding there on the campus.
Oh, on campus. That's really cool.
And if you happen to come across with that video link, I will pass that to the students for them to virtually experience the beauty of Ithaca.
Yeah, sounds good.
We're about time, and I know like it's Sunday morning for you. I don't want to take too much of time out of your Sunday. Thank you so much for being with us, Morgan, and sharing your story. We enjoy chatting with you. Oh, the students also says thank you in the chat box. And so I'm going to open up for just one last question. If there is any, you get 3 seconds to respond. If you want to ask questions, you can unmute yourself. Otherwise, we'll let Morgan go. Okay, we'll stop here. Thank you, Morgan, again, and thank you, everybody, for joining. Have a great weekend.
Bye, Joyce. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Good luck.
Thank you.